After 7 o'clock, kids. Hi guys, I'm here with you a children's Bible story. Now we haven't done one in a while. The last one we read was about Moses, where he killed an Egyptian. And then, because the Egyptian was beating a Hebrew slave, and then he fled because he knew that he would be killed for killing an Egyptian. So now, tonight, we're going to talk about Moses and the burning bush. And I will go ahead right now and show you guys the picture. Moses and the burning bush. Just to kind of give you a little sample in your head of what it might have looked like. I wish the picture was colored, but it's not. You see that bush caught on fire? And the bush was caught on fire, and God's voice came from the fire in the bush, and the bush did not burn up. When God was done talking, the fire went away, and the bush was just like it was before the fire was even on the bush, a perfectly healthy bush. All right. We'll start out with a Bible verse that kind of goes along with this story. And it's Exodus chapter 3, verse 5. And Exodus is the second book of the Bible, right after Genesis. Okay? And it says, "And he said, Draw not nigh hither, but off thy shoes from thy feet, for the place whereon thou standest is holy ground." God told Moses to take his shoes off because he was walking on holy ground. So let's begin the story. Remember, this is when Moses fled from Egypt. He was on the run from Pharaoh. In the land of Midian, far away from the angry Pharaoh who wanted to take his life, Moses made friends with Jethro, the priest of Midian, and his family. Moses helped Jethro tend his flocks, and he made him his home with the old man. After some time had passed, he chose one of Jethro's 7 daughters to be his wife. Her name was Zipporah. Moses' life in Midian was different from the one he had lived in the Egyptian palace. He wore the rough robes of an outdoor man, and he grew tangled and tough as he stayed out in the wind and sun. Watching Jethro's flocks. On his long, lonely journeys, guiding the sheep to faraway pastures, he would remember his people back in Egypt. As he thought of them, he probably prayed to God to take away their suffering. Meanwhile, back in Egypt, the king who had wanted to kill Moses died, and a new Pharaoh took his place, which would have been the brother that Moses grew up with, or a cousin. This one was even more cruel than the others, and the Israelites suffered worse than before. As they cried for help, God heard their prayers. He remembered the promise he had made to Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, and he decided that now he would take their people, the Israelites, back to the land he had promised them. One day, Moses was alone with his father-in-law's sheep, far away from home, near Mount Horeb. Suddenly, before his eyes, he saw a bush bright with flames of fire, yet not burning up. He took a step forward to take a closer look when a voice came to him from the bush. "Moses, Moses, come no closer. Take off your shoes. You are standing on holy ground." Moses recognized the voice immediately. This was the same voice that had spoken to Adam and Eve in the garden, to Noah, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It was the voice of God. and now it was speaking to him. I have heard my people crying in Egypt, and I am going to rescue them from their suffering and take them back to the land I promised them, the Lord said. Moses, you are the one I have chosen to lead them out of Egypt. O Lord, Moses said humbly, who am I that I could lend them? I cannot lead them. Who am I? I will be with you, Moses. I will help you bring them someday to this very mountain to worship me, the voice told him. Then Moses asked, what if the Hebrews ask me, who appointed me to be their leader? Tell them it is I who sent you, the God who has always lived and the one who spoke with their fathers. But Lord, they do not know me. They will never believe me or trust me to lead them. What is that in your hand? God asked Moses. A rod. My shepherd's staff, Moses answered, which is a big, long stick, that you hold on to help you walk. The Lord commanded Moses to throw it down to the ground, and when he did, it turned into a snake. When Moses ran from it, the Lord told him to reach out and take it by the tail. When Moses obeyed, he found that he held only the rod in his hand again. The snake had turned back into Moses' walking stick. Then God had Moses place his hand inside his robe. When he took it out, it was white and covered with the sores of leprosy, a terrible disease. But after he laid it inside his robe again, it came out healed as it was before. God told Moses that he could use the same signs to prove to the children of Israel that he had been chosen by their God to lead them. As a third sign, Moses would have the power to turn water into blood. Still, Moses had an excuse. "Oh, my Lord," he pleaded, "I cannot speak well enough to do this great work. I cannot make my mouth say what I mean to say." "Did I not make your mouth?" the voice insisted. "I will help you with the things you say." "Please, Lord, send someone better than I." Moses began again to make excuses, but the Lord was growing impatient. He said, "Your brother Aaron is a fine speaker. I will send him with you. Right now he is coming across the wilderness to meet you." Surely enough, led by a message from God, Aaron left Egypt and traveled toward Midian, where Moses was. Sure that the Lord would give him strength to lead the Israelites, Moses returned to Jethro and asked for permission to leave Jethro. Then Moses and his family set out for Egypt. In his hand, Moses carried the shepherd's staff, through which God had worked miracles. In his heart was the desire to be a leader from God to his people. He was sure now that God had saved him as a baby that day in the river Nile just for this reason. On the journey, Moses met Aaron, and they traveled toward Egypt together. And that's the story. We'll stop there. And our next story will be the stubborn king, which is the Pharaoh of Egypt. And we'll see what all the miracles God works through Moses in Egypt in our next story, to the Pharaoh and the Egyptians. You will see God do many miracles in Egypt in the next story through Moses. So many miracles. And finally, I don't want to spoil the ending, but God wins. That's all I'm going to tell you. The Pharaoh doesn't win, God wins. Let's try to answer some questions now about the story I just read. What did Moses do in Midian? Midian, the town that he fled to after he ran off from killing the man in Egypt. What did he do there? He was a shepherd for his father-in-law's sheep. He married Jethro and married Jethro's daughter, and then he tended his father-in-law's sheep. So that's question 1. Question 2, what strange thing did Moses see on the mountain? And that strange thing, of course, was the burning bush. Number 3, name 2 signs God showed Moses to prove that he was God and that he would be with Moses. Remember, the first one was when he told Moses to throw down his staff or his stick, whichever you want to call it, and Moses threw it down and it turned into a snake. And then he told Moses to pick it back up, that it turned back into Moses' staff. And the second was he told Moses to put his hand in his coat, and he did. And when he took it out, he was sick with leprosy. He had sores on his skin, and his skin was all white. And then God told him to put it back in his coat, and he did. And when he took it back out, his hand was normal again. But like I said in the next story, you'll see many, many, many more greater miracles, greater signs than these. And let's see. Here we go. Question number 5, the last question for our story. Whom did God give him to help him overcome his fear of going to Egypt to rescue their people? God sent with Moses his brother Aaron, because Aaron was a good speaker, and he sent him to help Moses, to help Moses so he wouldn't have to be alone, and so Moses would feel, a little better having somebody with him. So God sent Moses' brother Aaron with him. Okay, guys, that was the story of Moses and the burning bush. Our next story will be a stubborn king, and hopefully we will get that story up before too long. I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's story, the burning bush, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. Bye, little ones. God bless.